Today we're going to be making a more traditional style vase, kind of based on some Greco-Roman vases that I studied when I was in school. And we're going to be using two different methods to make this little fella. We're going to use a slab, and then we're going to coil. So let's get started. Okay, we'll put him aside. So what we're going to start with today is a balloon and a slab of clay. So I started using balloons as what I guess you would say a mold. And I've been using them for years. They're wonderful to make bowls, vases, anything that you would need a base to get started. So we're going to start with this guy, and I've got a slab of clay that I pre-rolled out. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick, and you can see how loose it is. It came straight out of the bag, and I'm just going to drape it so ever gently on top of my balloon. And you kind of have to pick it up a couple times and get it kind of in the middle. It doesn't tend to want to go straight on in the middle the first time. Okay, so what you'll start to notice is that your clay is going to want to fold. So just let it fold naturally. And you usually get about 4 really nice folds. If your clay is too hard or too dry, it won't fold this gently. So what you're going to need to do is just roll out another slab if you're having a hard time with these nice gentle folds. So I'm just pressing my hands against the balloon and making it fold a little deeper. So now we're going to take a needle tool. This is mine. It's very sharp, so be careful. And we're going to make some darts. I dart at the top of the fold. So we're just going to take our needle tool and just bring it down and then go on the other side. And we're just making a triangular shaped dart, just like you would when your mom used to hem your pants. Okay, like that. And then you set that aside on a piece of plastic because we'll use that again. So then when you're just going to take one side like that and then bring the other side on top like that. Okay. And then we're just going to ask the clay to make a seam, so it's going to join itself. So we're just going to push this clay over. Now I'm using my metal dental spatula that I got off of eBay. Looks like this. They're about $1.15 to $1.50 on eBay, and they're wonderful tools to hand build with. I use this almost all the time when I hand build. Now this is going to look a little messy. That's okay. We're going to fix all of this stuff up later. Right now we just want to get our seam started. Okay, so that's the first one, and we're just going to go over to the second fold. Now be really careful not to pop your balloon. I've done this so many times, and then you have to start all over again because you don't have your mold underneath. Okay, again we're going to fold. Right, nice little seam there. And then we're just going to take our spatula. Now you can also use a wooden rib to work on this seam. I like this guy too, shaped like a little knife. Okay, so that works well too. You can also take something like this, a little Michael Sherrill rib, and that'll work. It doesn't work quite as well because it's flexible. So I tend to like something that's hard. Okay, now we're going to go to the third fold. And we're going to make a dart. Pull that off. And again, we're just going to fold this over like that. And then we'll take our tool, whatever tool we decide to use. And we're just going to ask the seam to create itself, join itself together. It looks like to me that this wooden one actually does a little bit of better job with these seams. So I'm going to go back to this wooden one right now. Okay, and we're going to do the last one. And like that. And we're going to just fold over. And you're going to do that all the way around until you feel like you are getting the shape of the bottom of your vase that you would like to have. I will fuss with this quite a bit, this shape, because I like it to be super round. So I'll probably take a couple more darts. So let's take a look at what we've got right now. So what I like to do now that we've got it folded onto the surface of the balloon is I like to take some of these really long pieces off because they're not going to be there eventually. And then I can really see the shape of the bowl. Okay. And again, when you're doing this, please put your hand behind. I've got my fingers right here, and they're blocking this little point from sticking into my balloon and popping it, because that is the worst. So just stick your hands back there as you start to cut these off. And again. Okay, now I'm just going to take a look at this, and what you can see now is it's flailing out up here at the bottom of this slab. Okay, and so I want it to curve into the balloon a little bit more. This looks like a helmet to me, and I want it to look more like a bowl. So I'm going to start really adjusting this edge and curling it in, and then I'm going to take a couple more darts, excuse me, and then we'll put the foot on. So let's see here. I think there needs to be a dart here. My hand is behind, blocking the point from touching the balloon. Okay, so we're making a little dart there. And this clay is still really wet, so it's joining itself just fine. If you're struggling with that, you could always just start another slab that's nice and wet, straight out of the bag. I don't really give it any time to set up. I just place it right on top of the balloon. And see, you can see how I made that curve in. It's pretty tight against the balloon now. And I'm going to go on this one. Pull that off. Again, too, if you find that your seam is not wanting to join itself, you can take, once you get it smashed together, right, you can take a little bit of one of your old darts and just make a little snake here, and we're just going to put that on top of the dart, and then that will help it join itself. And then you just smush it from one side to the other, like that. Okay. And then let's go right here. I think this is this one's sticking really far off. And this is where I did a previous dart, but I'm going to dart again in this area. It doesn't matter if you go over a dart you did before. Okay, and I'm just going to pull the clay over this way. And there's probably going to need to be one right here. See how that's up off the balloon? Dart. It's a pretty big one, but that one had a big space away from the balloon. Okay. All right, I think I'm good. We'll give it a spin and see. I think that looks pretty good to me. Now, there's always going to be adjusting after we let this set up. We'll adjust and adjust and adjust until we get it the way we want it. Okay, so now I'm going to lower this guy so we can put the foot on, and you can actually see me put the foot on. I just put it in a little bisque bowl. I like it taller when I'm working on the seams, and then this is fine to work on it when it's. So I'm going to smooth this out just a little bit more now that I can see it more up close, giving the seams a good clean up here. And you can see I'm being pretty rough on this piece of clay. This is Glenn's Blend 1, which is a Laguna clay, and it takes a lot of, it doesn't mind being pushed around. So it'll take a lot of manipulation and do just fine. Okay, you want to make sure that you've got your ball in the middle of your base, your chuck or your little bowl that you're resting it in. Okay, so now we're going to put the foot on. So I'm going to move him aside here for a second. And I'm going to grab some of that clay that I took out of it making my darts. And I'm going to roll a snake out. Okay. And then I'm just going to, you can roll it out on a bat with your hands. I know y'all really can't see that very well. I'll move this over. So I'm trying to find where you're going to be able to see it. I don't know if you will. My camera is on my iPad and it likes to stay in one position. Okay, but I'm just using a bat like that to roll out my snake. Okay. Once it's even, what you're going to do is you're going to take the palm of your hand and you're just going to flatten it all the way down. Okay? And that becomes, oh, excuse me, that becomes your, this is going to be the coil that we're going to place as our foot. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tap this and flatten the side, one side. And I'm going to turn it over. See how that's a little flatter? And I'm going to flatten the other side. All the way down. Perfect. And then we'll pull this little guy back up. There. Okay. Now we want to make sure we're in the middle. I'm going to turn this towards you so that you can see me put it on. So you're going to make a, I'm going to take my little scoring tool, which is just toothpicks with some dental floss, and I'm going to make a circle where I'm going to put my foot. I'm just going to make a little circle here. Now, this clay, like I said, is very, very wet. So I don't need a lot of scoring and slipping, but I'm going to do that just as a precaution. Okay. And then I'm going to take my little mixture of water and clay with slip. And I'm going to apply just a very small amount all the way around. There. Now, I'm going to take my coil that I made for my foot, and I'm just going to score this all the way down, like that. And then I'm just going to place this coil on the bottom of my pot. Perfect. Now when you get to the seam here, I always cut, back that off, I cut at an angle. So I'm going to cut that at an angle like that. And then I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to cut the opposite angle in this one like that. And then they join, and they have a nice tight join with that little angle. Okay, so now we've got it on there. I'm going to put it back up so I can see it. So we're just going to start to push the coil, and I'm using my fingers like that. I'm just pushing it down all the way around. And you can see how wet my piece is because of the way it's pushing down with my pressure. But the balloon allows it to pop right back up. So even if you're pushing it down, the balloon is saving you from pushing through. It's just like an air pocket underneath your piece. Okay, so then I'm going to give it a good tug all the way around and make sure it's on. And it seems to be pretty good. So at this point, I'm going to worry about the seam here. So I'm going to start to rub that together. And then I'm going to go on the other side and fix it on this side. Okay. Now, if you would like to, for extra security, put a little snake to join right here, you can. So I'm going to roll out a really, really thin, as thin as I can get it, snake. And I'm going to stick that all the way around. And that's just going to give me a little extra security that this piece, this foot is joined to the piece. And again, I'm just going to put one all the way around like that. I just need a little bit more. And if you would like to, you can put one on the inside too. I'm not gonna do that today because I think this is fine. So after I get this all tucked up in there, I'm gonna start to pull with my rib the clay down onto the pot. So I'm trying to show you without getting my hand in the way. Like that. You're just gonna pull a little bit of clay down onto the pot, all the way around. And then we're going to go up. So we're going to take our tool and we're going to pull the clay up onto the foot. You got to be careful not to pull too much. I just pulled a little bit too much, but that's okay. So we're just pulling this up. Sometimes I have to stand up when I work because it just gives me a better view of what I'm actually doing. Okay, so you're going to do that all the way around. Now this looks really messy, and I'm not going to take our time up doing all this fussy stuff, but this looks really messy. Now what I'm going to do is when it sets up just a little bit more, I'm going to go with a sponge and kind of clean this up a little bit, and then I'm going to focus on the inside a little bit. But since you know how to put the snake on, and if you want to put one on the inside here, you can. I'm going to put this little fella aside, and I'm going to pull one that I made yesterday, and we'll work on that to get our vase. Okay, so now this is the one that I made yesterday, and it's all stiffened up. So we can take this off. And if you'd like to save your balloon, you can try to get it to come out by itself without popping it. I generally just pop it because they'll deflate. If I'm not going to make any more pieces today, they'll deflate. And so I usually don't use them again. So this is what we're dealing with inside. But first, I would like to take a look at the foot because I did talk about that a little bit, how I was going to clean the foot up. And you can see it's not bad. I did put a snake inside this one. Outside it, I put a little snake there too. And it's not bad, but I like it to be a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to take a nice damp sponge, and I'm just going to start to work on this foot a little bit. Trying to get all those little places to come together and be a nice, smooth foot. I'm going to go around the outside. And you can see I'm using a pretty good amount of water here because I'm in a hurry. Because I don't want to waste you guys' time doing all this fussy stuff. But I just wanted to show you that's how I take care of the bottom once I've let it set up a good amount. And then I'm going to really wring out my sponge and go back over, trying to get all the dampness off. And the last thing I'll do is grab a towel, and I'm just going to wipe that water off because we're going to put this back down onto the bat, and I don't want it to stick. So that looks pretty good. I probably, in all honesty, will fuss with it a little bit more once I turn the video off, but for right now, it's good enough. All right, so now let's address the inside. So before we do that, this edge is dry. I mean, it's not dry. I mean, I can still move it, but it's drier than I want it to be for when I start to attach the clay. So I'm going to go ahead and score the rim all the way around. And then I'm going to take my slip, mix it up, and then just start to put the slip on the rim. I'm going to put a good amount so this is a little bit drier than I normally would like. Here we go. Let's get that nice and wet. And then I'm going to do what I always do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to score the slip into the clay. And that's really going to help dampen up that rim so that it's going to be easy to attach. just adjusting the camera just a little bit so y'all can see, and my hand's not gonna get in the way. Okay, so that's better. Okay, so there we go. Now, when you look inside of here, these darts look pretty sealed to me. You can kind of just see, you can look at the edge here on your piece. It's hard for you to see in the camera, but they're pretty attached. I'm not worried that they're gonna come apart or crack, but if that is a concern for you, then I'm just gonna do one here. So if that's a concern for you, it's just like the foot, just find the one that seems like it's not attaching, and you're just gonna score and make yourself a little snake. And we're going to attach it with a little slip. So we're just gonna slip in there. And then just stick it in to the seam, okay? This does not have to look pretty because nobody's gonna see it but you while you're doing it, and you won't even see it again after you're finished. So then you're just gonna pull the clay over on one side of the seam, and then you're gonna pull the clay over on the other side. And it doesn't look very pretty, right? But it doesn't have to. Okay, so if you wanna do that for all your seams, you can. It's an extra security measure. Okay, so once all that's taken care of, I'm gonna score one more time and just feel the top of the rim to see if I feel like it needs any more slip. And it's pretty sticky, so I think it's okay. So I'm gonna take all these darts, right, that we used before when we wrapped in plastic, and I'm gonna start making coils. And so I'm gonna put this little guy back up here so we can kind of see him as we're working, how we want to shape the breast of the pot. So we want it to come up from here and go up. So we want it to be rounded. So when you want to go up, when you're hand building with coils, you put your coil directly on top of your rim. Okay? If you want to go in, when we start to move in and make the clay come in towards the neck of the pot, we're going to start coiling on the inside. So it's straight on top to go up, in to go in, and if you wanted to go out, you would put your coil on the outside of your rim, and that would be putting it on the outside to go out. Okay, so we're just going to go straight up. So we're putting the coil on directly on the rim. Like that. And what I'm doing is, it's hard to see, but I do kind of twist my coil as I'm putting it on with this hand, with my right hand. I'm kind of rolling the coil as I'm putting it on, like that. And then I just hit my seam, and I'm just going to press my thumb into the seam, and then I'm going to continue to go right on top of that coil, like that. Okay? And I usually put about 3 on before I blend the clay together. So just rolling out your coils. Now, if you would like to, you can always pre-roll your coils and keep them in plastic. I generally build, I usually just make my coils as I go. Okay, we're just going to attach the seam thumb, and we're just going to go straight on top, like that. Okay, and now I'm going to get one more coil in here, and then I'm going to start to blend. So onto the seam, so you press that in. We're just going to pinch the coils onto the previous coil. And I'm going to try to even this up because my rim was not even. So I'm going to try to even this up and get it a little bit of a more even rim. And last little bit here, and then we're going to blend. Okay, so we're going to take our spatula, and I'm going to clean it off. I clean it off. Let's see where. There. I just make sure it's nice and clean. And then I'm going to just start to blend this together. Pulling the clay down onto the bowl. Now, the piece that we got off of the balloon, which looks a lot like this, that we just put coils on. If you wanted to, you could cut all of these little places that stick up, and this would be a nice little bowl, you know, and you could fix the seams on the inside, and it makes a nice little bowl. So, especially a nice little ice cream bowl. You could just stop there and you'd have yourself a nice bowl. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the clay back to the side, like this. Just pulling the clay to the side. Okay. And again, this is going to look a little messy. Excuse me. We'll clean it up later, so don't worry about that part. Okay, so now we've got a nice rounded bowl shape, right? And again, you could stop here and still have a nice bowl. I'm just kind of evening this wall out a little bit. Okay, so now, well, there's a little knot right there. I've almost got it. Okay, so now I'm going to start to think about coming up around, and so that we can start working on the neck. So I'm going to build on the inside to go in. So I'm going to start over. Let's see how you can see it. If I can get out of the way. Oops. Okay, so we're going on the, well, okay. Quick camera angle change. I just wanted you to be able to see me working from above. Okay, so again, I was talking about going in to putting the coil on the inside to go in. So we're just going to put this on the inside like that. So that starts to round over at an angle. We're just putting it right on the inside. Like that. Okay. And again, I'm going to start to work a little bit faster so you're not watching a video for so long. I'm just reinforcing the pinching motion. And I'm going to go one more coil up and in. So again, I'm still putting it on the inside every time, making a gentle curve. Like that. Okay, so now I'm going to start to, again, blend my clay down. And then I'm going to stand up. I always stand up when it starts to get this tall. And I'm just spreading the clay over to the side, getting rid of any evidence of a coil that was just placed on there. Trying to make the whole piece one unit. And we're going to go in a little bit. So this is where you can really force the clay to do what you want it to do. Right now, I went in to go in, but as I was smoothing the clay, it pulled the clay back out a little bit. And this is getting relatively tall, and so I'm gonna take a couple more darts up here. So I'm gonna dart there, and I'm just gonna put those walls together and pinch. Okay, and then I'm gonna dart. When I dart a pot like this, I usually do 3, and I'm space them out. So 1, 2, and then 3 in the middle here of those 2. Okay. That one was a little too big, but we'll make it work. So now you can see how that's starting to go in. So now we have to try to erase this triangular shape that we've created by making these darts. So again, I'm just going to start pulling the clay. And inside I'm pushing out, trying to round this clay over my hand and make a nice breast of a pot. Okay, so that feels like it looks pretty round to me. So now we're going to keep going in, and as I do this, a lot of times if it's a really large piece of pottery, I'll stop and let this set up. But this is relatively small, and so I can push it all the way to the end. So we're going to go all the way to the end of this pot right now. So I'm going in to go in. And I'm going to do 3 more, and then we'll take a look at how big the opening is and see if we want to start to make our neck. I'm going to go one more time, and then we'll probably go up from there. So what I'm going to do after we do this last little bit here, I'm going to change the camera angle again so that you can see me build up, because it'd be hard at this angle to see me build going up. Okay, so again, I'm going to start to pull the clay down. And then across. And I've got my fingers in there for support, rounding them. They're rounded out, and so I can use them as a brace for when I'm pushing against the clay. Okay, let's see. We're almost there. Almost there. That looks pretty good. The opening of the neck is a little off center, so I'm going to fix that right now. Let's see, so yeah, just a little bit. Right. Okay. A little bit. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm going to change the camera angle, so I'll be right back. So another change there. This is what we are working with. Oops. So I can get him out of the way. Now, it's a hand-built pot, so it's not going to be perfect like it would be off of a wheel, but I think this looks pretty good for working with just a balloon, a slab, and some coils. So, alright, so now we're at the top again, like that. And we're going to start to go up. So, again, I know this is repetitive, but we're going to go straight on top to go up. And I'm just going to attach this. Now, I don't need to add slip or scoring because it's still really wet. Okay, so when I start to work on the neck, I don't just coil and coil and coil all the way up. I do one coil at a time because I don't want it to be uneven. I want it to be even as I go up. So we're just going to put this one on top of that one. We just need a little piece there. And then we're going to make one more. Oops, that one just flew off. Keep dropping my coils. Okay, we just put a little piece here, like that. There. And now we're going to start to smooth this down. So my fingers are inside here. They're curled underneath this part of the pot. And I'm just going to pull my tool down. Making sure that's nice and attached. And we're going to go up a little bit more, and then we're going to start to go out. Okay. And one more. Well, no, I think I'm going to go ahead and start to go out. So I'm going to go ahead and join this one coil here. Good. And then we're just going to start to work on the outside. So I'm going to put this guy on the outside of the last coil I put on. Like that. So I'm going to tilt this up so you can see it's on the outside. And that's going to help us go out. So whenever I make any of these transitional coil movements, I go ahead and smooth that first one down. And again on the outside here. And just smooth that one down. Okay. And you can start to kind of coax this neck to have that nice graceful curve. Like that. And I'm going to add a couple more coils, and we're going to be done with the building of the pot. And then we have to attach the handles. Okay, we're just going to take a look at this now. This may be where we stop. I just want to smooth this in first to see. Okay, so visually I think it needs one last coil. I'm going to do a little shaping here. It's just both hands in the pot pinching like this. And all I'm doing is smoothing out and evening up the wall inside the neck. And doing a little shaping. Excuse me, I don't mind seeing the finger marks on my pots that I hand build. I think it adds to them. Gives them a touch of rusticness. Excuse me, I had a little tickle in my throat. Okay, so one more coil here, and we can be done with the build. And we'll just smooth this down, and then I'm going to go back and do another round of pinching and smoothing and evening out. Now if you notice, I'm sure you've noticed this side, it's a little bigger than this side. So I'm going to take a dart there. And that just happens as you're building. Sometimes your coils are thicker in one place than others. And so it just gets a little taller on one end, and that's fine. That's why we know what we can do. We can dart, and we can shape our piece to be whatever we want it to be. Okay, and now I'm just going up, really encouraging that graceful curve of the neck. Okay. And I'm going to give it a spin and just see if maybe we need one more coil, but I don't think we do. Once I pinch and smooth, I think it'll be fine. There's still a little unevenness there. Just encouraging the curve here. Okay, let's spin it and see. So now I'm noticing this rim is pretty uneven, and most of you will have to do this just because of what I said. When you coil build, you can't get your coils all exact. So you're going to have some places that are a little bumpy on your rim. So I'm just going to take my little needle tool here, and I'm pinching like that, and I'm just going to start to pull my needle tool through, all the way through to the other side. And lift off like that. And that makes it look a lot better. It does create a very hard edge there. So what I'm going to do is take a very, very lightly dampened sponge, and I'm just going to start to pull my sponge down the rim and making it a lot softer. And then you just have to decide whether you want to clean up the coils on the inside, where that way people will know how it's built. I always leave my coils. I like to see them. I think they're pretty. But if you want to take them out, you're just going to need to go in with a rib like this and just start to smooth all of those coils down on the inside, okay? Alright, so I think we can stop fussing with the rim, and it looks pretty good. It's a little softer now, and I'm going to put the handles on. So let me just wipe my hand off really quick. Okay, so this is a round pot and not an altered pot. We can just put the handles on wherever we feel like they might be attractive. And I usually just take a spin and look. And if there's a place that looks like it's a little bumpy, or the coil didn't go together all the way, that's a great place to put a handle, because it'll hide any of those flaws. So to make a handle, I'm just going to roll out a little coil like this, and I'm just going to flatten it like that. We're just going to fold it over onto itself. and there's your handle. Okay, so this little area sticks out a little bit, so I'm gonna put my first handle here, because it might take your eye off the fact that it's a little bumpy there. And then I always put it on and I kind of take a look at it. Do I like that? I'm pretty pleased with that. So you're first going to go down, pull it down. Now this is something that I'm doing very, very wet. This pot is very wet. So you don't want to run your finger and push straight through your pot. Generally, if I'm not teaching, I would wait on putting the handle on, and I would put it on once it's gotten set up. So I don't run the risk of pushing through. And then you're gonna pull, see, I just dented it. That's okay. To one side, and then to the other, like that. And then I'm gonna show you a trick of the trade, because I just dented this in. I'm gonna pull it out. So I'm gonna take a large needle tool and I'm gonna go inside like that, and I'm just gonna push that back out like that. Okay, so now it doesn't push in. And so if you'll wait on your handles, you won't run the risk of doing that. And then I'm just gonna pull my finger over that hole and maybe take a little piece of clay and just stick it right there. And there's a lot of easy fixes for pretty big mistakes when you're hand building. I do a lot of sticking tools in pots and pulling places out. Okay, so that's pretty good. Once it sets up, I'll go back in here and I'm gonna put a little bit of coil in there and just make that nice and secure. And then you can kind of start fussing with the shape. You can push it down and open that up if you like. I kind of like that. Okay, so you want to go directly on the opposite side. So I've got my finger back here, and then I'm going to put my fingers together. I'm still touching the handle back here, and that is about the same spot on the opposite side. It's right here. It's down a little lower, so I'm going to have to take some of this out. Okay, and let's make one more handle. And again, I'm just gonna flatten it out. And I'll go back to the other handle because I want to make them kind of the same. So I'm just gonna hold that up next to it like that and kind of see. And there's my handle. Okay, so we're gonna put this one on again. I probably will push through again, and what I'll end up doing is just having to pull it out. Okay, so I just sit here and I kind of look and see if they're even. They look pretty even. They look pretty similar in shape. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this one. So I'm going to pull down gently. And pull across. Oh, I didn't go through. Oh, there's a little bit. And then pull across. I did better on this one. But I'm going to still pull this out a little bit. So I'm going to stick my tool in like that. And I'm going to push that back out. See that? Simple fix. And you just get a piece of clay and cover that hole back up. Okay. And again, like I said, I'm going to go back in this little place right here and just get that all taken care of. But still a little too wet to do that. So I'm going to leave it for later. So this is our final little pot. Let's clean this off. We can take a look at it. Not too bad for hand building, huh? All right, guys. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.